You there?
Hey, there you are. How's it going?
All right, there you are.
Yep. Just out in my shop. I bought back my old orange pickup today.
Nice.
I'm tickled. Yeah, I'm tickled to death.
Where's that?
Yeah, you see it?
Yeah, where'd you get that from?
Oh, years ago I had it, and then I sold it, and then buddy of mine seen it on Facebook. I never thought I'd ever see it again. Bought it for $5,000. It's like, holy crap! I couldn't resist it.
Wow. What
So,
year is it?
yeah, I'm tickled. 76. And I paid 5,000. I sold it years ago for 4,700. And then this guy, he put airbags on it, and then he's redid the transfer case in it and another new motor in it. And actually, I'm money ahead.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty darn cool. So I just been tinkering on it today.
That's great.
So I never thought I'd ever see it again. Yeah. How you been doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty
Cool.
good.
Oh, I've been tinkering on it. Yeah. I missed last week. I was driving and I missed it.
Oh, it's all good, man. How was your trip? Good?
Tell you what, that was a fun road trip though.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Amazing.
There was so much to see out there. Yeah. Yep. I'm just back and forth, so I'm just cleaning my bench. So. Yep. Anybody else on?
Amber's getting out of now.
Oh, no, there's Amber. How you doing?
You're on
I
mute.
don't hear her.
You're on mute.
Unmute. Sorry.
Hey, Amber.
Hi.
How you doing?
How'd your trip treat you? You look amazing.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Then I got home and I ended up buying back my old pickup.
That's your old pickup?
Yeah, end up buying it back. So I'm all excited.
Look what he's wearing. California. Okay. That's awesome. Well, that's neat. So, well, did you need it or you just got all nostalgic or what?
Well,
Nostalgic.
I've been missing it. Actually, I've been missing it since I sold it. And then a buddy of mine, he seen it on Facebook. It was just listed. I never thought I'd ever see it again. Well, 8 years later, I got it again in its better shape than I had it. So
That's hilarious.
yeah. But
Nice
anyway.
hat, Michael.
Huh?
Representing East Coast, like the hat.
Yeah.
I'm back and forth, so I'm just thinking my shop.
All right. Well, at least we get to see every room in your house. We've seen the library, the RV, parts of the living room. Now we're in the garage.
Yeah. Well, it's light out, so I ain't tired.
The trip did you well. You look great. You look like $1 million.
It was a lot of fun. I was ready to come home though. I left Texas, College Station, Texas, and I drove straight home all but 3 hours. I got a motel, and as I went in the room, I was like, this is shit. This is crap. And I should have known better when the lady goes, cash only. Well, it looked nice from the outside. And she goes, it's cash only. I said, that must be a no-tell motel or something. I don't know. But so she was cash only. I said, well, I'm dead to the world. I said, I'm just going to go to sleep. I went in there. Holy shit. Hour and a half later, I said, I had a warm shower, I guess, but still wasn't the cleanest. I left and I went and slept in a truck stop and slept 3 hours and I went home. So that was my extent. College Station, Texas home, only 3 hours sleep. I was done though.
Lori must have been very happy to see you.
Yeah, she was. Well, I'll let Michael have it.
No, you're all good. Just waiting to see if anybody else is joining.
The Christmas lights went out here.
Okay. I kind of sent the thing out late today, so I don't know. People were probably not aware, but I sent it out super late, unfortunately. But we'll get started here anyway. See if anybody comes while we're doing it. Well, so the Real, Raw, and Flawed brand, so is the brand that is mine is Real, Raw, and Flawed. How we kind of started this thing a long time ago with the podcast and doing these. And then every other week I do the church thing for Zoe. So we do it every Monday, but you know, like you guys always know, the continuance is always Real, Raw, and Flawed. And that's my brand company platform where I do, you know, personal growth stuff, human performance, wellness, health, stuff like that. That's kind of the development of that company. We are just announcing and starting a new platform under that brand, Real, Raw, and Flawed. It's going to start tomorrow morning with this style first. It's going to be a group on Zoom every other Tuesday for the next 8 weeks or 7 weeks at 8 in the morning here, Pacific Standard, 11 East Coast. It's starting with men's group only. It's developing into both. It's going to end up in the long term for relationships, period. But the first section division of it's going to be a men's only group. There's already 14 people signed up, so I was very pumped about that. I was kind of surprised, actually, if I'm being honest. But I want to share that with you because it's going to be the first. It's going to be the first extension of Real, Raw, and Flawed that actually has curriculum, program, and strategy to it. That's going to turn into essentially a business, but that's not the intention. It's more about what we do here every day. But when I say business, it's going to have some structure, curriculum, and mandatory show up time to it. So it's going to be over a 5-month period of teaching men prehab to relationships before getting in a specific one, and or if you're in a current relationship or a marriage. So it's really about men's dynamic and navigating through what it takes to have the proper skills and understanding to be in a relationship in today's current landscape. So it doesn't matter if you've been married or are married, getting into a relationship in the middle of one doesn't matter. It's essentially prehab for relationship before it begins or during, for specific skills to navigate the highs and lows that come along with the longevity of any relationship. This group is designed to revitalize and redefine masculinity in today's world. We will discuss creating ways to develop a healthy relationship with yourself first, so that in turn you can prepare to treat the modern woman with honor, service, respect through the fight for the sake of the relationship at a constant level. So when I say those things, I'm talking about all the missed opportunity that our generation, I'm going to say to you too, because we're all in the same kind of generation, but even the generation now, the ones coming up, but the missed opportunity in ours specifically was there wasn't stuff out there for us to learn from besides witness of our own family. And that's not an educational classroom. That's a environmental situation that we have no choice over. We're born into a certain area and family, and what we get to witness that we consider relationship, love, commitment, longevity is from the people closest to us, not in an educational platform, pass and fail style, in any of those ways where we learned everything else, say in school, high school, college, where we're learning about things that are being tested on them. We didn't have that growing up. We don't have it now, to tell you the truth. It's not in school now. We don't have it now. It is mostly been reliant on parents alone. But we're talking about parents that weren't taught it either. So what are we actually talking about? We're not talking about professionals teaching the future of this world, the future men and women, how to be in a committed, long relationship that has and will have a lot of very highs and a lot more very lows. How do we manage through it? What are some of the things that come up that are important? So we're going to be doing 5 strategies over 5 months. It's a minimum starting line, baseline, to start to get committed to what it is to be in a relationship, period. That's not the end. You don't take this like a course and certification, and now you're a great man to be in a relationship and you're a better husband, period. Now you can move on. This is the beginning of the start of what that looks like. So in 5 strategies, you're talking about self-awareness, communication amongst, empathy between, bringing value. So what is your value to a relationship? And emotional connection. So most people talk about EQ. And then within those 5 subpoints, we're talking about love, servant leadership, protect, provide, pursue, are all within those. So it's a deep dive. The connect groups for the next 7 weeks are going to be an introduction to it. They're going to be a teaser of it. We're going to spend an hour each week on each one of those 5. But the curriculum itself is much more intense. It's designed to spend a month minimum on each of the 5. So 5 months. And understanding exactly what it is to understand your roles in a relationship, masculinity and the femininity of roles and what they mean today, not what they meant when you grew up, not what you think they mean in your head, but what the current landscape is today and how they are relevant. So it's important, I think, today, if we look at all the stats and the information that's out there, nothing has really changed for the better when it comes to relationships, marriage, divorce rates, the people that are actually triggering the divorces. Some of this information that's out there will shock you to know and to learn that who is initiating most of these divorces, who's at fault to start them, who values marriage more, a woman or a man. A lot of questions that we think we might know, but I think you'd be surprised to find out the answer to. And with me, just like any business, you can't jump into a business because everybody else said, hey, this is super popular, everybody's doing well, we should jump in too. That's what happened in the real estate game prior to the bubble in 2008. Everybody saw friends making good money in real estate, so like, oh, we should buy a house and flip it too, honey. Let's put our house up now for collateral. We'll flip a house. Everybody started doing that, had no idea what they were doing. And the country went in shambles. And it took a nosedive. You can't stick your nose into places that you're not experienced in. And experience comes from application. Experience doesn't come from watching other people do it. And unfortunately for us, we grew up knowing what love is, a relationship or marriage, by watching our parents or somebody close to us parents. We didn't have a abundance of education and information to survey from. We got to look around our immediate area, look what that example was, and then go, I want to do that. I'm in on that. That's what I can do that. But the reality is, it's no different than you jumping in real estate and flipping houses. You have no fucking business doing it. It's not your skill set. You have no fucking business jumping in to get an easy, quick fix on something that you think everybody else is doing it. That's not how you win longevity. That's how you win uh poker. That's how you win roulette. You go up to the table, you have $100 in your hand, you pick one or two fucking colors. That's what that is. That's like, oh, I can do it too. And then you lose $100. And you put 200 on, you lose that 200. That's what that is. There's no longevity in the thought process. So when you stand up there and you say in front of your God or in front of your preacher, in front of whoever is sanctifying the marriage of this relationship, that you're in it forever, till death do us part, we got each other's back no matter what. You say all that shit. I don't want to sound too harsh here, but it's complete bullshit because you have no reference point to say that you can stand on 2 feet and prove that you have the long game in you to stand up to the words that you're committing. You're saying that out loud, till death do us part, no matter what. Well, if that was the truth, why is our divorce rate through the roof? I mean, if we're just looking at simple statistics and semantics of it, that means we're all liars. More than half of the country is a liar. Half the world are liars. Full blown liars, just like methodical, right? But we could say, well, how would I know? I thought it was true though. I would be with them. How would I didn't lie. I didn't know. That's a cop out. We don't say that when it comes to our careers, our jobs, or you want to drop the transmission on that new truck you got. You're just gonna be like, oh, I saw it. I saw his TV show once on MTV, Pimp Your Rides. I can do that. No, ain't nobody gonna trust you put a transmission in that truck because you watched that on a TV show. You gotta have experience. You gotta know. You gotta educate yourself. You gotta study it. You gotta go through example. You have to have application. So I'm very bullish on this thing. I don't think it's just needed by many. I think it's a must. I think more people have to do it. It's not that I believe that I'm going to lead this massive movement in the world. I think that more people have to do this. I think more people have to lean into it from the side of just men, just women, and then the merging of the both. Because right now, communication is at its ultimate low. Those are the facts. Communication is ultimate low. And what a fucking crazy statement to say out loud when our communication abilities is at an ultimate high in the world. We can communicate with anybody at any time from hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles across the globe at any time we want. Communication ability as at its ultimate high, and communication amongst humans at its ultimate low. That's fucking ridiculous. So what does that mean? It means that we have so many options and outlets available to us that we're not even talking to the person in front of us. We're under assumption. We live under assumption. And we live under this assumption that's only in our own head of how we narrate what our world's supposed to look like. What I look like in this relationship, what I want out of this relationship, what I assume that other person should be giving me in this relationship, or what they should be thinking about me in this relationship. We're living under an assumption. So that's going on in our heads. So we have lack of communication, real communication. Like, hey, we got married 10 years ago. Is anything different with you? Who the fuck asked that question? Well, you should be asking it, but nobody's doing it. Nobody's sitting down going, hey, let's check in. The company started at 0. We're at 5 years in. We're making this much money now. We've expanded. We've got this house and all these assets. Let's check in on the company and see if we're doing this the healthy way. Let's see if this company is healthy. Are we in debt? Are we in a surplus? Is this thing working out for the best? Are we doing it the right way? Can we be more efficient? Because I can tell you right now, really good companies that have spanned the test of time, the 20-year, the family 40-year companies, They do that stuff. They look around corners, they sit down, what used to work, what's not working, what can work in the future. They're constantly reevaluating to change with the current landscape so they can continue to win. Nobody opens a business in 1960 and changes nothing. And in 2023, they're wildly successful. It never happens. Never. There's not one instance in the entire world it's ever happened. It's the ability to change, evolve, have self-awareness, look into it, and make a change. Again, I think part of the problem is we're looking at marriage as the ultimate win. It's at the end. It's like, I got married, got my wife, we're gonna have kids now, everything's good. Because the idea of marriage is marriage, kids, house, home, safety. It like bubbles in this thing. So if you get married, you're like awarded all this stuff all of a sudden. Like the commitment awards you these things with it. I should have to fight for those things. And the actual truth is the opposite. Once you make the commitment to a serious relationship and or marriage is when you have to start fighting for all those things. They're not gifted to you. They're not rewarded to you. They're not yours. That's when you have to start. The only difference is you got a partner to fight with. You got somebody that's willing to fight for those things with you no matter what, till death do you part, for the longevity, for the whole ride of this world until we're both gone. It's not being looked at that way. And I think that's part of the problem that exists today. The information doesn't lie. It's out there. And the sad thing about the current information that we've been studying is it's not even accurate and on the wrong side of it. So if it's at 54% divorce rate, that's just the people that legally got divorced. It's not the people that want out or are scared to get out or are separated and just haven't got legally done. That's not great. So if we're already at close to 60, not including the people that have been documented to be divorced, we're not doing good. It's way higher and it's not good, right? And there's so many layers of the onion to dive into. This group that I'm starting, Boyz to Men, is to really just teach men today of the past, but also today moving forward, how to be a man today, how to accept your role as a man, what that means today, not what it used to mean, not what traditions mean or what religion tells you or what government tells you, but today, right now, in this world that exists, whether you like the world or not, what it takes to be a man. Then be good with yourself first so you can then honor the woman, right? Amber, do you want to say something?
Well, on that point, I was wondering, and you're a big statistics guy. What came up in my head was, is there a benefit, like on an economic level, a world or national or whatever, regional economic level that relates to, like, do single people spend more money? Because one of the concepts I heard about marriage in a civilized country like ours and how we know it was more so for tax purposes. It's an easy way to count in the population and to put people together and combine incomes and, sustain a home. But now in this current, world we live in, is there something statistically, I wonder, that would be a benefit to government for people to stay single or get divorced?
Oh, yeah. I'll give you a one off top right away. Monogamy itself. Like there's a lot of talk about monogamy and that who's cheating in the relationship, who steps out more in a marriage and relationships. And if you asked 100 people on the street, it'd come back with a resounding men. That's not necessarily true, unfortunately. It's not men that are just cheaters. It's both. Today's environments, the gap of equality between men and women from way back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, when it was dominantly men doing this, and women were like, literally, you were a housekeeper. Women weren't going to college. They weren't, after high school, they weren't going, not because they weren't as smart or they couldn't get in. It's because they already knew their role and they saw it as a waste of time to extend education when I'm going to be a housewife and housekeeper, right? When the role started changing after Title IX in 72, the gap not only closed, but it extremely went the other way. Women started going to college. They graduate more often. They're smarter GPAs in school. It flipped it upside down after 72 when Title IX came out for equality of women and stuff like this. It changed so dramatically. It essentially what some experts call taking the brakes off women. Once the brakes were off, not only did they know how to drive the car, they sped fucking past everybody. And now women's groups will fight today that's the equality's not still there. Men still get paid because they're not looking at the longevity of the stats. You're talking about hundreds of years one way, and then since 1972. They did, right? So what I was going to say to answer your question is monogamy is pushed on by a lot of people, like men and women. It's like, well, monogamy, people are not as monogamous anymore. And the fact of the matter is monogamy is a very new concept amongst human civilization, period. It came together when religion and state came together with the sanctity of marriage. And then marriage was monogamous. Right? The reality of our species is no species is monogamous, not naturally, not born in this world. That's one. Two, if you look at the actual stats of monogamy in the world, it's shocking. Like, how many people do you think are are polygamous in the entire world? Like, what a percentage would you put it at, you think?
I would put it at only like 8% maybe 8% of 100% of the
all
world's
people
population
is polygamous.
8. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What would that? What would it be?
95%.
7.5 billion.
95% of all human society is polygamous in the world. Monogamy takes up this. So what are we? I only say that not to be like, oh, well, I don't know if that's true. I say it because what are we being told growing up and where you grew up in your society? Forget the rest of the world. What are you being told that are your truths that lead you into then your relationships? So if I think monogamy is a world trait, if I think monogamy is the ultimate ending, well, I'm going to lead into relationships assuming certain things, right? And that's just one example. So when I say we need to be educated better as males and females on both sides, good, and then educated as what we look like together is an understatement. It is wildly distracted by misinformation. And this can be broken up into worldly, culturally, religionally, locally, by country. But let's look at just the bigger problem. I'm talking about the global stance between men and women. Now, there's a lot of layers of the onion to go through and say, well, in this culture, women aren't even allowed to show their face in public. Okay, got it. Now we're talking about some different things that culturally suppress ideas no matter what you think for men and women. And there's examples of that for men and women in a lot of cultures. So it's hard to put a global blanket on this topic, but let's just talk about our local environment, the people around this, our local environments of the United States, because what we've had to deal with, it's still not what we think it is. It's what you've seen,
the group
what you've
chat.
witnessed, what you have watched around you from friends, family, and close ones. It's the model. It's always the model. The next person in line reacts and acts like the model. That's why we're so intrigued by following Instagram and influencers. That's why it's still this crazy thing in society that we're addicted to watching, because it's a human trait to watch and imitate. That's what we do as humans. That's why the sheep bunch together and follow the fucking herder. That's why we're sheep amongst leaders, because we're built like that. So we like the bellyache about this idea of like, well, everybody's on Instagram and it's just so simple. Yeah, but if it wasn't ridiculous, you wouldn't be on there scrolling through it any seconds of any day. None of us would be. And nobody can ever, it's another hard thing people have. That was like, how much time do you spend on social media? Oh, well, barely any. Like everybody lies about that too, because it's nobody wants to admit like you spent a fucking hour straight on scrolling through other people's lives when you could have been doing something like, but it happens. Everybody's done it. I've done it. You get lost in it in this moment. And it just goes to the idea that we're easily influenced by what we watch. Right. So if that's the truth, if the people closest to us are our educators and professors of relationship and marriage and longevity, well, what the fuck do you expect out of your life? If you've done nothing else after that to invest time and education in knowing the real facts about relationship, about being a man in this world, about being a woman in this world as a man, about being a woman in this world as a woman, about being a man in this world as a woman, like knowing as I'm a man, I should also know as much as I possibly can what it's like to might be a woman in this world. Even though I can't be one, I should still know about it. I should inform myself. I should understand. I don't have to be called non-masculine or drop my masculinity to be able to, in a moment, put that down and get on the side or the empathy or the self-understanding of what it might be like to be a woman in the situation that we both stand in, and vice versa for a woman. What it might be like, what the pressures might be assigned to being a man as the protector provider, so that we have this real live true empathy towards one another as opposite sexes to provide the best situation for one another, so we can fight for longevity. We can fight maybe till death do us part. And the worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out with us because of the world situation, maybe you take a job or you want to chase an opportunity and you can't be together, that it doesn't end in war, because again, you don't understand each other. Right?
I think I just wanted to say too, on that point you just made, like for me at my age and having, many relationships, good, bad, and different, I think right where the breakdown is right. You just identified it, is the point between defensiveness and understanding or empathy, and when I have an argument with my partner or whatever, usually it's because, and I feel very good at being accountable for what's mine in it, that probably, look, this is probably my issue. I'm probably projecting something that is of unworthiness or whatever my, inner dialogue is and whatnot. However, this is how I'm feeling in this moment. This is what I was triggered to feel. And oftentimes, even though I say it is owning it as much as I possibly can, what the other person hears, whether that's my partner or the opposite sex, typically is, you're not good enough, or you're failing me, or you're doing something wrong, or it's about you. And the immediate response is defense. So the person starts defending themselves, and I try to, and this is the hardest part, and where the breakdown, where the fight occurs for like 3 hours that could have been avoided, is if the person could, I feel in this moment, if the person could just say, okay, let me hear what you're saying to me. Let me put myself in your shoes for a minute. If I was standing there and this was happening, and I'm not me thinking my thoughts, but what I know about you, how might that feel? And even if I can't understand it, I can empathize with it or whatnot. And that's the great diffuser right there. The second someone goes, okay, I might not even understand, let's talk about it or whatever, but the defensiveness will bring on a 3-hour fight that might turn into a 3-year fight that recurs because there's no resolve on it, because there's no desire for understanding. So exactly what you said. And that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
epiphysis always for me between peace and war.
So what
With the
you're,
opposite sex.
so what you're bringing up now is exactly the difference between, how we're attacking this is being in a relationship currently or in a marriage long-term versus prehabbing young men coming into that idea of getting into one.
How do you already
So-
know
So where
resolution?
you're at is how we're approaching it is when you're in a relationship, yeah, those are great tools to like, hey, hold on, let's take a fucking second here before we spend the next hour blowing this out of proportion and do what you said. Now, the bigger part is starting them young before they get into anything serious. The important part is to never allow them to get to a point where in a fucking argument in 10 years down the road, that if somebody has to calm somebody down and be like, listen, just pretend like you're in my position. There shouldn't be a therapy session within a small argument. The
Right.
idea would be, as a young male, to understand that if you're going to get in a serious relationship with a person of the opposite sex or a woman with a male, that there's some things that you need to know about being a woman that'll stop you from ever being in this position. There's some things you need to know about being a man, right? Suicide rates in men skyrocket women because of the pressures of providing, the provider role. Skyrocket women. It's not even a fucking close. Because when they feel like they're not needed anymore in the aspect of the protecting, hunting, gathering, that aspect, they become worthless and unvaluable. They want to commit suicide. They go in deep depression and darkness. It's part of the reason, small, I don't want to get into this because it's not my expertise, but it's part of the reason why when people come back from war, they get in a dark depression because they feel unvaluable and unused. They were just sent to protect the nation from tyranny. They get sent back home and nobody calls them. That's what men feel like. We are trained outside of the military. We are trained to protect, to fight, to stand up for women, to show, to conquer that area. Go get that land. And when you have it, we'll bring in the children and women. And then we can be there because we're safe now. You take that away from a man, which is happening every day in this society today because of equality, which I am all down for. But let's pretend we live in a world of pure equality among sexes. Great, wonderful world to live in. We should all be contributing. But now we have to have a real conversation amongst these youth to when they get in a relationship to say, listen, while you're in that relationship, for no particular reason, you need to look at your partner and say, I appreciate your value in this relationship, what you bring to the table. You show up, you work hard for us, you bring this, you put a roof over our head, right? If you're going to live in these traditional roles still, and vice versa, you turn around and look, I want to show you and tell you how much I appreciate what it must be like to do the things you do. You gave birth to all our kids to put them on this planet, staying healthy all that time, showing up and providing for these kids while I'm at work. Like, you have to say these things out loud. Otherwise, assumptions creep into one another's head about each other's roles. And then the second you feel like you're not being validated, you go into that defense mode, what you just spoke of. So, because we never got assigned those things, we never got taught that. We never had to sit down of like, hey, let's look ahead to the future so we can avoid any of these toxic, meaningless fights, these wars. We never got any of that. We just had to go through war. Had to go through war and come out the other side feeling worthless and unwanted and unused. So what you said is important. Today, if you're already in it, you're the later generation. You have to try a little harder to be in the moment and teach one another, but you can still use those principles now. You can still say, you know what? Doesn't matter if our parents didn't teach us. You know what? I appreciate the things you do. That you wake up every fucking morning consistently. You show up to your job to provide for this family. You protect us, you show up for us, you're the man that this family needs, and vice versa. I appreciate that you might have given up some dreams you had to stay home and be with our kids, or the mother, or the way you show up for me, and you make me feel wanted when I get home, and you have dinner and you want to spend time with me, you ask me questions. Like, we need to verbalize those things, because what we often do at our age bracket is we assume that the other person should know how fucking hard I work. You should know that I'm doing this for you. What do you mean? What else am I doing it for? And that attitude brings us resentment, and it turns into a war and conversation that we don't want to be having. So this prehab idea is not to get therapy after, not to go talk to your friend like, oh, my wife doesn't get me, or I don't know, man, I don't know, like, I just don't feel like she even cares about me anymore. We're like talking to our friend about it instead of the person that can just be like, hey, look, man, I need some fucking validation. You know, like, I need some little bit of love here. Not like, hey, celebrate me because I'm the winner of this fucking family. Both. It's gotta be balanced. And it isn't take away femininity or masculinity from anybody. You don't have to feel like it's like, oh, well, I'm not being masculine anymore if I share my feelings with my wife. Yo, masculinity is just like when I talked about narcissism. Narcissism is a disease, it can be, but narcissist profile is used by everybody in their life. It's about not going down the path of continuance of being the actual narcissist. Everybody uses something all the time. When you go to a funeral, when you go to a wedding, you start to have empathy in maybe a feminist fashion. You can be the manliest man in the world. One thing is not another. In today's society, the way it is, the way we're getting closer to the everybody is equal no matter what by law. We have to be extra sensitive to teaching our youth coming up that, listen, don't lose your masculinity. Women, do not lose your femininity. You can stay in those roles and still do whatever you want in equality in this country. But find your partner that recognizes both, right? Find that servant leadership, something bigger than you. Maybe it is the relationship. Maybe it's God. Something that's bigger than you, that's undeniable. Your servant leadership that you show up for all the time. You know, so that you can be the best version of you to protect whatever it is. Your relationship, your love, your kids, your family, your home, your sanctity. Because when you're doing that, you're able to provide for others. And you can start to pursue in a healthy way. Like 20 years down the road, you don't get comfortable with the person you're with, you're still pursuing them. Go ahead.
I wanted to say about the masculine feminine thing. One of the things, I do Eastern medicine and alternative medicine and all that kind of thing. And one of the things in traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic, which is the oldest form of medicine, the 5,000-year-old medicine before hospitals and all of this, it has always existed in time that humans have known, whether just through gut instinct or their alignment with nature, whatnot, that feminine and masculine exist in everything, just like yin and yang. And when the American Medical Association came in the early 1900s and they started to westernize medicine and things of that nature, and of course, make money doing it, anything that was like witchcraft or natural or feminine or any kind of thing like that wasn't very specific to branding. Masculinity is about selling man shit, and vice versa. But we all have all of that in us at all time. And that's that connection to spirit or nature or whatever we believe in, God or whatever. So it's really important that a lot of that comes back in so that we can make that normalized again in that way. Everything is yin and yang. You can't have the mountains without the ocean or the feminine without the masculine. And that exists in every single person. It has nothing to do with gender at all.
Yeah, there's a interesting I don't know if it's concept or talking point about the shipwreck mentality. So today, the whole idea of men being as valuable is lessening by the day. And it comes with, like I said, taking the brakes off women. Like your role isn't just to birth and be at home. Like you can get college education, do a job, you can do the same things. Like that's part of the equality, Title IX, all that stuff. But because it's happening, not good or bad, men's roles of being the provider and being the caretaker and the protector are dwindling. The modern man is on a decline. So this idea of the shipwreck thing is it's one thing to say as a woman, a strong woman, successful, nobody's you didn't marry into your shit. You own your shit. You got education. You opened your own place. Like you've done all this. You are a strong modern woman. I don't need a man to do these things for me. I'll get a man if I want one. That has become a thing, and the idea of the shipwreck theory or idea is that the balance of being guys acceptable to that role kind of leads into that I don't need you, but you're invaluable if the ship's going down. So they compare it like the Titanic situation. Only 19% of all men on the Titanic survived. Because if you remember, it's get all the children and women to the lifeboats. Now, I get the concept of what it is. Women give birth to children. If you're going to save the humanity of this world, you want to get women off so they can survive, so they can reproduce and save the world. This is the idea of it. But look into it a little deeper than that. What does that mean for a man? Why do you think suicide rates are so high? Why do you think I said the things I said about being invaluable? You guys stay here to die. We have to save them. That's your role here. You put it all on the line, your life included, and do this, right? 75% of women survived that Titanic ship. 75%. It's a big number. Now, again, when I say it makes sense from a standpoint of birth and creating human, great. But I bring it up because we've got to be careful of the world modernizing and being like, okay, as a woman, I'm like, I don't need a man to live a successful life and do all the things I want, even to the point of having a baby. I don't need a man to like give that to me. But don't be the same person that says that in one breath, and then when the ship goes down, asks to be the first off. You understand what I'm getting at? So it's not like men or women, like you said. It's not this thing. It doesn't have to be against me against you, you against. It has to just be educated, thoughtful thinking about where we're moving towards. If you want to be a woman that truly, I don't need to live in this past narrative. I want to dominate. I want to go to school. I want to do this. I want to be this here. And I can still have kids, and I don't need a man to marry me to do so. Great. But if the ship's going down, you're next in line just like they are. Okay? Maybe you're going to stay on the boat. But because this is so thick, I always refer to this as we're not comparing statistics properly. We're taking hundreds of years of this, and then because so much happened right here, we're saying, why aren't these compared? You can't do that. We're not even 50 years into understanding the difference. Where this has been like way back when Jesus was walking the earth, like the rules were like this, and what it meant to be a woman versus a male, and women never went to war, and they read, and if you wanted to have many women, you did, and there was no monogamy, and you slept with everybody, and that was in the time of Jesus walking the land. Like there's hundreds of years of it being this way, and then the past 50 years we've changed it, and we're all up in a fucking riot about it, and that's not fair, is what I'm saying. It's fair to make sure that every human has an equal opportunity in this world. That's fair. But then while we're doing it, it's not fair to be like, what? This is ridiculous. It's not even, I don't get paid the same. I don't do this. It's like, whoa, pump the fucking brakes. Like we just let the brakes off. Like now you want a little bit of the e-brake? You want a little bit of safety? Like you wanted them off completely. But now you wanted the brake in your back pocket in case you're going too fast. And that's the point of both sides. So I think we got to be very careful with the ideas of wins in this world. Like the Title IX, great. I think that's a win. Like, you can't pocket every woman when they're born and just be like, hey, your purpose here is to birth children and stay at home and, take care of the home for your husband. Well, what if a woman doesn't want a fucking husband or kids? She just doesn't get to make that decision. And truthfully, it wasn't that nobody said you can't make the decision. It was never an option. So it became a no decision. And that's what I'm saying, even back then and now, we have to be careful with the narrative we're giving these kids. Like today, another crazy stat, like good or bad, don't know what it is yet, but it's a stat. 20-somethings are having way less sex today than ever were before. Good or bad, I don't know. Parents are probably like, that's awesome. All my kids having fucking sex. But it's a stat. The emotional connections, the things that mean love are different. These transactional relationships that are happening amongst our youngsters, they're different. And it's because they don't have the fucking tools to know the responsibility and the roles of what it means to be man and woman. Everything what they're looking at is like a man is a woman is a man. Like I'm a chicken. Like there's no fucking line. Masculinity is not a word. The only time masculinity is used anymore is when it's brought up in the toxic masculinity. That's when it's brought up now. If you look up, it's like you bring up masculinity, just toxic masculinity floods the internet. It's because we've weaponized it. So it's interesting to me that we're not being careful enough with our words amongst our youngsters, and now they're so fucking confused. What is a relationship? What is marriage? Like, are we having sex? No, we're platonic. We're like this. We're a couple. We don't have sex. What? Like, what do we like? There's this weird thing happening, and if we don't take fucking control of it and start to step up in education, we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose in this war of equality that we've been fighting for, humanity of how we are to one another, and there's not gonna be this connectivity amongst us because we're not gonna know what that fucking is.
Well, and in 20 years, when that particular generation that is totally disconnected from the empathy and connection of other human beings is in government, what the hell will that mean? Because those adults will be totally different adults than any other adults that have ever lived in the history of the world. If they have no connection to protecting their wife or husband at home or their jobs or anything that matters, because they'll literally be the people that are like going to want to be like demigods or something. Like, that's strange. I never even really thought of that.
Here's an amazing one I listened to that I thought makes sense, but wow, it kind of hit me. Wow, I just sit and think about it. The gap starts early between men and women. It starts early. It starts in like 18 months of birth to 18 months, where you start to see a massive difference between aggression between men and boys and girls. And it's just the way we cue and parent. Boys are supposed to be tough. They fall on their face. You leave them, rub them in the dirt. Girl falls. Like, oh my God, is she okay? Like, those cues happen so early that the aggression rate, which I thought was shocking, is happening before and up to 18 months. The separation goes like this. Little baby boys are way more aggressive than baby girls, like soon. But I thought I'm listening to this guy, and he's like, this professor on the subject, and he's talking about it's the biological differences, right, that we're talking about. It's because there are biological differences between men and women, undeniable. I don't care who you are, you can't argue it. But it's not just the biological differences alone that separate us. It's the culture that, in the way our biological differences are allowed to be expressed. Right? So if you think about it like that, it's like, yes, we have differences. Clear. These are the facts of the statistics. women and men are this. Facts, 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 facts. They start to get skewed as facts and opinion when they get moved into the culture they were born into. Because then it's like, what is that culture? Is that culture allowing you to express those differences properly? And that's where we start to see these early things. Because our culture when we're born is just our parents in a household, tight quarters, our parents allowing or not allowing us to express our biological differences in the way that they allow us or not. So I'm like, wow, what a crazy thing. I told you, Amber knows this, but like a while back, we did a thing with John Brinkus and we did this thing on sports. Like if men and women never got cued differently from born date all the way through, that there wouldn't be such a difference between men and women's sports. We never cue them different. Girl fell, she falls. Boy falls, he falls. You treat them exactly the same. You don't cue them different, nothing. That they'd be way closer in competitive edge than they are now because of the reasons like that. Aggression is different by 18 months between boys and girls when you're young because how we cue them. So that leads to this cultural situation. Are we separating too much or not enough? I think that the answer to that's much different if we ask our parents' generation to today. Much different. And if we're not paying attention to the fact that those answers are probably opposite, well, then we're not really evolving into what our kids' healthy relationship might look like. You know, what are we doing when we're going to get married? You know, I told you sometimes the church has that interview. Okay. Is it long enough? Is it they talk about enough? I don't think so, in my opinion. But more so, what are the parents' responsibility in that role of saying, your kids come to you, I'm getting married. What are the parents asking? What are the questions they're asking? For real. And most of the time, I would say this is a kind of a hard one to find online because I don't know if people would tell the truth, but most of the stuff I'm gathering is parents are looking for financial stability for their children first. So in their heads, maybe they didn't say it out loud, they're saying, like, who are you marrying? How can they take care of you? Not, are they emotionally abusive? Do they connect with you? How is the love connection? How do you guys know you're in love? Is there any, you know what I mean? No,
Also,
initially
I
it
read,
goes to this, how is that human going to be taken care of when they're off our plate?
also I read that even before that moment of the conscious thought, when you are weeding the people out to possibly, you know, whatever, genetically, I was watching this on the Discovery Channel a couple of years ago. Genetically, subconsciously, we are actually looking for traits that up our physical ability to survive. So it could be as the stupidest thing as like calves, calf muscles, or like how they jump or run or something like that, because we're looking for subconsciously something to breed with to better our survival rate. Then the conscious thought when we're out there doing it is what you said. Okay, can they also, you know, financial stability, hold me, pull me out of a fire, you know, whatever it is. But yeah, it's really interesting. And then to follow that up, and maybe you'll touch on this at some point in the seminar, and I've heard this many times, is on both sides, from men and women, but more so from women. And you'll have to look this up because I've heard a couple of different women tell me that they actually went to their psychologist, and like different psychologists in different states, but with the same kind of story. And that there's actually a term for it that you'll have to find on the internet, that is, after a woman is done having her children with a chosen suitor for the genetic, you know, specimens, essentially, they sometimes never, ever want to have sex with that person ever again for the rest of the marriage for 20 years, because they went in for that specifically, like genetically for the children. And so that's a whole other level of unlearning, or then going, okay, now do you want to fall in love and have a real relationship on top of raising these genetically perfect children? But that's a whole thing. I had no idea, because I mean, I don't have children, and you know, but I hear that a lot with women and people who are in long-term marriages where they're like, yeah, we haven't had sex since our seventh child was born, we're done. Like, what?
Right. Yeah, I mean, what you said is a fact. I mean, it is a fact. It goes back to Because physical appearance, it goes, and it started, by the way, so we're clear, women were doing that when they're picking men. It was more about women picking men because it went back to strength, protection, providing, like physically featured. This is what, right? And then,
Well, what do you want? What kind of human do you want to make, and what will
No.
its chances of
Well,
survival be in tribes?
yeah, forget about the birthing process though. That came way later when the relationship evolved. Early on, tribal wise, it was purely on visual protection of community, like, and then how warriors fought. So men would fight over that honor for the woman that picked. So it was, it's deeply embedded. And when we talk about deeply embedded things in the mind, we go back to science of tracking things, which I've talked about many times in this. When I track the brainwave thing, trauma sits way back, gets filed away, and it only gets pulled back up when it's in a fight or flight situation or necessary, if it's never been addressed and or changed neuropathically. Meaning, if your idea 20 years ago was this, if you never reapproached it and changed your neural pathways of how you see the world or a thing, it continues to stay that way. But it comes up like this, like a racehorse, in times that you're not pulling it. You're not pulling it up because you need it. It's coming up fucking because something's happening. And that's what's happening. We have so many years of it this way. That's what I'm kind of getting at with this whole thing is there's so much evidence, so much time of this, that even today, if you found yourself in a situation where you're dominating as a woman, you're the CEO, and you're like, dude, I'm my own shit. I've never had to ask a man for anything. I've worked myself here, and I'm having a surrogate, I'm a baby, and then something comes up like the modern day shipwreck, whatever it looks like. It's hard if you haven't dealt with it, that thing doesn't come racing back up evolution hundreds of years to be like, save me. And that's what we're getting at. Like, it's not a man and woman thing. It's you gotta fucking change it. You gotta look at it and say, okay, I'm gonna live in this new world of what it looks like to be a woman, but let me address my past ways of what it was to be a woman. And same with men. It's gotta be addressed. I can't go on and find a woman in this world that I truly love, and I'm like, you know what? She's for me. I really love this one. I think this is it. Without me, I've had doing the work to go, I got to let go of what my grandfather and my father taught me or exampled me or modeled me as what it is to be a man. Because then I'll fail. If I don't address it, change it in my psyche where it's filed, pull it back up, change that file, pull it out, open the pages, throw those in the garbage, slide new ones in, put it back in my file, I'm fucked. I'm only going to last so long. I'm going to get in a situation with her. I'm going to get married and 10 years ago. I'm going to get in a situation where it comes racing and I have no control over it. And I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to fumble. I'm going to say something wrong. I'm going to act out of character and I'm going to lose. And I've done it. I've done it a million times. I've done things that I said to myself, guaranteed I would never do because I watched it, because I watched it, because I watched it and saw the negative impact. I said, fuck that. I'll never be that scumbag. I'll never be that person. I would never fucking do that to somebody. How fucking dare they? Like, get ingrained. And because I never put in that file a change order, I never put a change order in that file to say, that's not mine. It's garbage. This is mine. I'm going to put it in so that I have something to react off of. I never did that. I just verbally said out loud, oh, I've had these fucking. I never relearned what it was to be a man for me. So when I got in the situation, I acted out of character. I went ahead and did things I would never do. I acted inappropriately. I acted out of mind almost sometimes to the point where I didn't recognize me. How is that? Because I don't have a darkness in me. It's because I never addressed the re-information. I never re-educated my mind and myself about who I am as a man. What does it mean to be Michael as a man? not what does it mean to be me in this world of men that have taught me. So, man, this is such a big thing. I've seen it clearly. I've only ever seen a couple things as clear. One was my business, and like this, I'm seeing this thing so clearly because it's not about. There's no downside, in my opinion, to lean into this thing. I'm gonna spend a lot of my time in this area, and we're gonna write this curriculum. I'll keep on evolving it, and I've reached out to women already to get their opinions. I've reached out to a psychologist in town that's gonna help when we get to the women's side of it. She's gonna help and do the same thing Colin and I are doing for women. And then when they're done with that, we're gonna come together and have men and women join this thing, not couples together, but just men and women together in a program that we'll all have curriculum for. And just see how this thing goes. I mean, I don't see any downside from providing it. I only see upside. I think it's going to change the world. I don't know. I think it can, but what I do know, it's urgent and it has to happen because we're losing meaning of roles. And I'm not even just talking about old school. Let's bring that old school back and wave flags and men be men. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying fuck the old school man. Let's recreate the masculine modern man. And for us, look at what it is and what it can be and what it's going to be a woman. So we can serve and honor and protect and be there in the ways that they expect from us. Because it's not the same. It's just not.
And let's just call it, humans only. Like, it's okay. We're all just humans. Like, it doesn't matter what parts anybody has. We are human beings. We all deserve respect. We all deserve to be heard and by the people that say they love us or want to love us or whatever. And this is a big deal. I love this. And I think it's the crucial tipping point in history because this isn't about girls versus boys or masculine and feminine. No. This is about complete understanding, education, re-education, and empowering people to have successful relationships with everybody in their life. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Longevity is the game. We got to play it in anything, right? We want long lives, right? We want long, happy lives. We want our kids to be long, happy. We want our marriages to be just good. We want to come home and just be good, right? But unfortunately, or fortunate, how you look at it, I say fortunate. If you're going to commit to a long-term relationship, what's the biggest blessing, the most fortunate thing about that is you get a new opportunity every day to pursue that relationship in a new way you never have. But if you don't, you will find yourself gapped, lost, lonely, not understood, feeling like what happened? Why is it different? You'll be asking questions because you're not asking questions. Right? We got to get out of our own assumption in our own head of what we believed was set out for us, or how we were born or given by our parents or not given, and just take goddamn control of ourselves and say, you know what? I'm going through a funk. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something about it. Right? I want to know how I can serve you better. I want to know what my value is. Here's a great question. Ask your partner what your value is in this relationship. Just say that. Just like I want to ask you a real question. What do you believe, or what in your heart? Like, it's yours. No opinion here. It's yours. How do you see my value in this relationship? And then you answer the same question. I bet you it'll be pretty hard. Might not happen right away, but it's a great question. Wouldn't you want to know why you're valued so much? Why that person loves you so much? What you bring to their life that's undeniable, that they don't want to be with anybody else? That's empowering. That makes you want to wake up more days. That makes you want to show up more often. That makes you want to reinvigorate that dating life that happened the first few weeks or months or year. It makes you want to stop by, even when you're exhausted coming home from work, and stop by the gas station, pick up a flower and come home and tell that person how much you love them and respect them. Because it's not about you constantly doing that and forcing a situation. It's about when you know your value to another human being, it becomes easy to keep showing up as that valuable person. But when you assume it and don't ask, you start to feel like it's taken for granted. You start to feel like maybe I'm not as valuable to them. Maybe I don't bring value to this relationship. But you're fucking asking yourself the questions and giving yourself the answers. That's poo-poo. It's caca. It's nonsense. We could tell ourselves anything, and we often do. How about let's get it from the source? Let's get it from the people sitting right next to us, the ones we're committed to, the ones we've given up time for, the ones we've given up part of our lives for, the ones we've made decisions that we wouldn't have made if they weren't in our lives. Let's start asking them. Not argumentative conversations, not like, do you even love me anymore? No, like, hey, I'll start. How about this? I'll start because I want to know the answer from you. I'll start. You know why I value you so much in my life? You know why? What value you bring to my life? Why I can't live without you? Why it drew me to you? And why I stay with you? I'll start. Yeah, it's a good way to start because it's gonna strengthen your emotional connection with that person. It's gonna heighten your communication. It's self-awareness on your part. And when you get that validation, you can be a better servant leader to your relationship. You can be a better protector. You can be a better provider. And you can start to unconsciously pursue your relationship again. Because you'll want to. That's the answer. Anyway, this thing starts tomorrow morning. I'm going to record them still, just like I always do everything. We already got 12 men join. Jason, you're more welcome to join anytime you want. I will send you the links to the videos. You can watch them on your own time. But we will start tomorrow at 8 a.m. For the next 7 weeks. But again, that's going to be on YouTube. I always send videos. I always make sure everybody's involved. This is starting for men only, but Amber, obviously, I'm going to be posting them and online. Love to hear feedback always from everybody. It's not about me and my answers. I am just as much or more a student of this process. Why I'm excited is because I want to learn more. I want to be in a relationship that provides all these things. I want to be this man that I know that I could be, but I got to be a student of my own word too. So this thing is not about me coaching it or teaching it, me and Colin. It's about me providing the information and being a conduit of it, just like our pastors are a conduit of the word of God. I'm not the answer. I'm not going to have all the answers. I don't model it today, but I will be a conduit of the information that I've dedicated my time to. And hopefully that can help, me be in a better situation and men and women in general. So I'm super excited about it. It's heavy in my heart every day. So, yeah, I'm excited. Appreciate all you guys supporting, just showing up, supporting me and things I do, supporting each other and the things we do.
We appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah, appreciate that. So we just want to be better together. And it takes a fucking community, man. It takes all of us. So look around you. Always look at your community, look at your circle. I see that you have a lot of people there today, Jason. I was kind of watching around in the background, people were cruising. Like, what a blessed life to, I just had a conversation with my co-part in this thing we're doing. And he went through a divorce past year, a pretty bad one, but he was just saying on the phone, he's like, the thing he misses the most in a downtime is people and community and friends. He moved to Tennessee not even 2 years ago to better the situation for his family. And when he was there, barely she left and went AWOL. So I say that because I was feeling his pain, and he doesn't have, I don't have that homie to call up and come over, dude. So man, look around you.
Yep.
Because I felt like that many times I've isolated myself. So
I got my boys here too up anyway, and then Lori, I went out and helped her for a minute with the garden, and she's kind of doing stuff. So
amazing.
I don't know, just dinging around this evening. The sun's out, and
Yeah, look,
Oh.
you look great. You're up, you're walking, the sun's out, you got community, you got your orange
Yep.
truck back.
yeah, I'm so tickled. Yeah, I it was on Facebook for 10 hours, and a buddy of mine texted me. He goes, "Is this your old pickup?" He goes, "I know that you miss it." Yeah.
I
No,
love
I
it.
got
Well, hey,
You're Jason's our age, and he always talks like he's in the 50s. I love
I know he's freaking 60 years old. You're so
it.
an old soul.
Tickled.
Jason, you should send the links to this new one too to the boys once they've been recorded. Whether they hit play or not, that'll be up to them. I mean, the young kids listen to podcasts in their truck while they're driving sometimes, and you never know, that might, turn them on to something.
Yeah,
Never know.
seriously.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
Pretty exciting. I love it.
Yeah, love you.
All right.
Look forward to sharing with you.
Thanks for doing it tonight.
Enjoy, man. Enjoy that sunshine, dude.
Oh yeah.
Love y'all.
All right, love you guys. See you.
All right. Have a good week. All right. Bye.
Bye.